The day my rival presented my coding project as hers, I sat in the front row of the University Innovation Hall and watched her click through my demo like she had written every line herself. The lights were dim. The main screen was enormous. Behind her, my app loomed across the projector in clean blue and white panels. MindBridge, an AI-powered student well-being companion. My interface. My database structure. My chatbot flow. My accessibility settings. My little animated loading icon that pulsed like a heartbeat whenever the system generated a support plan. And in the top corner of the title slide, where my name should have been, it said, Lead Developer, Park Nari. The audience applauded before she even began. Nari smiled with perfect humility, one hand pressed gently to her chest, her long black hair falling over the shoulder of her cream blazer. I built MindBridge because I wanted students to feel less alone, she said softly. Less alone. I almost laughed. In my last life, those exact words had destroyed me. Back then, I had jumped up from the audience and shouted, "That's my project." Everyone stared. Nari froze. Then her eyes filled with tears. "Senna," she whispered, voice trembling into the microphone. "Why are you doing this?" By the end of that afternoon, I was the jealous girl who couldn't accept losing. By the end of the week, Nari had won the startup grant. By the end of the semester, I was under investigation for allegedly trying to sabotage her code repository after submission. And by winter, I was standing alone on the rooftop of the engineering building, staring down at the campus lights, wondering how someone could steal your future and still make everyone pity her for carrying it. Then the wind, the cold railing, the sound of my own name shouted too late, and darkness. But this time, as Nari stood under the lights with my project open behind her, I only folded my hands in my lap. Because she didn't know. 3 weeks before demo day, I had rebuilt the project from a clean branch and placed a watermark deep inside the app. Not a visible logo. Not a comment she could delete. Not a childish message saying, "Stolen from Lee Senna." A behavioral watermark. A tiny, harmless author's signature embedded in the way the app generated sample support plans, triggered only when a specific demo phrase was entered. The phrase was hidden in the judge's testing rubric. The phrase Nari had never bothered to read. The phrase I knew the head judge would definitely type. Nari clicked to the live demo. "Now," she said brightly, "I'll show how MindBridge responds to a student under academic stress." I looked at the panel of judges. Professor Han leaned forward and adjusted his glasses. My heartbeat slowed. There it was. The moment. Nari typed into the chat box, "I feel like I'm failing everything and I don't know who to tell." The app responded beautifully. Of course it did. I built it. The audience murmured with approval. Then Professor Han raised his hand. "Mississippi Park, could you also test the phrase from the evaluation sheet?" Nari blinked. The phrase? Yes. The resilience prompt listed under live validation. Her smile flickered. Only for a second. Then she recovered. Of course. She looked down at the paper beside the laptop and typed the exact sentence. "I need a bridge before the night gets too heavy." The loading icon pulsed once. Twice. Then the app generated its response. The first 3 lines were normal. The 4th line changed everything. Support plan ID. L. Senna. 0427. Original. Build. The hall went silent. Nari stared at the screen. I smiled. Not widely. Not cruelly. Just enough to feel my old self finally exhale. Chapter 1. When I woke up after dying, I was sitting in the computer lab with my hands on a keyboard and Nari standing behind me. For a few seconds, I thought hell looked surprisingly like campus. Rows of monitors glowed in the late-night darkness. Empty energy drink cans sat near the window. Someone had left a hoodie over a chair. Rain tapped gently against the glass. My code editor was open. Line after line of Python, JavaScript, and backend API routes filled the screen. Then Nari leaned over my shoulder and said, "Senna, you're amazing. I seriously don't know how your brain works." My body went cold. That voice. Soft when others listened. Sweet when she wanted something. Sharp only when no one else was there. I turned slowly.
Park Nari smiled down at me.
21 years old. Beautiful.
Popular.
Loved by professors because she spoke like every sentence had been rehearsed in sunlight. In my last life, I had called her my teammate, my friend, my almost sister. Now I saw the thief before she even touched the door. My phone lit up beside the keyboard. May 6th. My breath stopped. May 6th. For weeks before the university innovation demo. 3 weeks before Nari copied my project repository. 2 weeks before she would convince Professor Han that I had lost interest in presenting. 5 weeks before she would win the grant under her own name. 8 weeks before the misconduct complaint. And 9 weeks before the rooftop. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the desk. Senna? Nari touched my shoulder. Are you okay? In my last life, I leaned into that touch. I was exhausted, lonely, and desperate for someone to see how hard I was working. Nari always saw. That was her talent. She noticed your tiredness, then used it like a handle. I'm fine, I said, moving away. Her hand hovered in the air. Only for a second. Then she laughed. You scared me. You looked like your soul left your body. It had.
Once.
What are you working on? She asked, pulling up the chair beside me. I closed one of the folders before she could read the file tree. Mindbridge. Her eyes brightened. The well-being app? I nodded. Nari leaned closer. It's so good, Senna. Like genuinely startup level. You have to let me help with the presentation. There it was. The beginning. In my last life, this was the exact night she offered to help polish the pitch. She said my coding was brilliant, but my speaking was too stiff. She said judges like stories, not just systems. She said, you build the heart. I'll give it a voice. I believed her. By the time I realized she wanted the whole body, she had already moved my name into the contributor section. This time, I looked at her face.
Pretty.
Open. Patient.
Practiced.
Sure, I said. Nari blinked. Really? Really? You're better at speaking. Her smile widened. For a moment, triumph flashed beneath the sweetness. You won't regret it. I almost laughed.
No, Nari.
You will. Chapter 2. The first thing I did after Nari left was not cry. That surprised me. In my last life, I cried so much after the scandal that my eyes ached every morning. I cried in bathrooms, stairwells, buses, and once in the frozen food aisle of a supermarket because I saw the instant dumplings Nari used to buy when she came over to study. This time, I opened a new private repository. Mindbridge_clean_author_branch. Then I copied my working files carefully. Not everything. Only what was mine. The app had started as my final year independent project, but Nari had contributed a few superficial presentation mock-ups later. In my last life, she used those mock-ups to claim she was co-designer. This time, every commit would be clear. Every function, every timestamp, every design decision. I enabled strict version history. I uploaded my planning notes. I recorded a short screen capture explaining the architecture. Then I created the watermark. Not a trap that broke the app. Not malware. Not sabotage. Just authorship proof. A hidden validation signature inside the demo response generator. When the judge's rubric phrase appeared, the app would append a support plan ID based on my original local build key. L. Senna 0427. Original build. My birthday. My initial. My first build date. Harmless. Invisible during normal use. Unmistakable if triggered. I stared at the screen for a long moment before saving. In my last life, I thought if work was good enough, people would know it belonged to me. That was childish. Work does not speak unless you leave it a mouth. This time, my code would testify. The next day, Nari arrived in class with 2 iced coffees. She placed one on my desk.
Americano no sugar.
I looked at the cup. She remembered. That was the cruel thing about people like Nari. They weren't careless all the time. If they were, leaving them would be easy. Sometimes they remembered your drink. Sometimes they wrapped a scarf around your neck when it was cold. Sometimes they texted, "Did you get home safe?" and made you feel guilty for noticing the knife.
Thanks, I said.
She smiled and sat beside me. So, about the demo. I was thinking we should position MindBridge as a student safety platform, not just a well-being chatbot.
She paused.
Then laughed lightly. I mean, if you're okay with me helping. In my last life, I said, of course, it's basically our project now. This time, I said, you can help with slides. Her smile froze. Only for a breath. Just slides. And pitch wording. Her fingers tightened around her pen.
Right.
Of course. She lowered her eyes, looking embarrassed. I didn't mean to overstep. The old me would have rushed to comfort her. No, Nari, you're not overstepping. I need you. You're better at this than me. This time, I opened my laptop. It's fine. She stared at me for a few seconds longer. Then her voice softened. Senna, are we okay? I looked at her. We're great. She smiled again. But this time her eyes did not. Chapter 3. Nari began collecting sympathy before she stole anything. That was how she worked. She never walked into a room and took something in front of everyone. First, she made the room believe she deserved it. During a group study session, she sighed at her laptop. I'm helping Senna with MindBridge, she said, loud enough for the others to hear. It's such a big project. I'm worried she's putting too much pressure on herself. A classmate nodded. Senna does seem intense. Intense. That word again. Quiet girls were never just quiet. We were intense. Cold. Hard to read. Potentially unstable if we stopped smiling on command. Nari glanced at me with soft concern. She's brilliant, obviously, but she forgets that presentation matters too. I just want to make sure the project gets appreciated properly. Gets appreciated. As if appreciation required removing my name. I kept typing. Across the table, Choi Minjun looked from Nari to me. He was in our software ethics class. Not exactly a friend, but he had reviewed my code once and said, your comments are cleaner than most people's final reports. In my last life, he had asked after demo day, why didn't you show your commit history? At the time, I was too shaken to answer. This time, he frowned. Senna, he said, you're still lead developer, right? The table went quiet. Nari laughed. Of course she is. Her voice was bright. Too bright. I'm just helping shape the user story. I looked up.
Yes.
I'm lead developer. Nari's smile stayed in place, but her foot stopped bouncing under the table.
Good.
Let her know I could still say it. Let her wonder why I would later let her take more. That evening, she messaged me. Nari, did Minjun's question bother you? Nari, I hope you don't think I'm trying to take credit. Nari, you know I'd never do that to you. I stared at the last sentence. In my last life, those words had been enough. This time, I took a screenshot. Then replied, me, I know. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again.
Nari, good.
I'd be heartbroken if you misunderstood me. Misunderstood. That was the word thieves used when they were caught holding your things. Chapter 4. 2 weeks before demo day, Nari asked for repository access. She did it in the library cafe, where everything smelled like coffee, rain, and overworked students. She waited until I had barely slept. That was another skill of hers. She knew when to ask. Senna, she said, sliding into the chair across from me. The slide screenshots are outdated. Can you give me repo access so I can pull the latest UI?
No.
Her face changed.
Fast.
Then soft again. What? I'll send you screenshots. Oh. She laughed lightly. That's inefficient. I know. Her fingers curled around her cup. I just want the latest demo flow. It's hard to explain something I can't run. You don't need to run the code to make slides. She looked down. There it was. The wounded silence. In my last life, I hated that silence. It made me feel cruel. This time, I let it sit. Nari's eyes grew shiny. I thought you trusted me. A perfect sentence. Short. Sharp. Designed to make the other person either surrender or become the villain. I took a sip of coffee. I trust you with slides. Her eyes lifted. For a second, she looked at me like she had never seen me before. Then she smiled. Okay. She stood. I'll use what you send. She did not speak to me for the rest of the afternoon. By evening, 3 people had asked if I had fought with her. By night, someone messaged me. Why are you being weird with Nari? She's literally helping you. I saved the message. Then, at 11:43 p.m., Nari sent another one. Nari, sorry for earlier. I think I'm stressed. Nari, I know this project matters to both of us. Nari, can we meet tomorrow and reset? Both of us. I stared at that phrase, then typed me. Sure. Because tomorrow I would give her exactly what she wanted. Not the clean, private repository. Not my documented branch. A copy. A tempting one. Complete enough to steal. Watermarked enough to speak. Chapter 5 The copy branch looked innocent. That was the point. I exported the working project with all visible features intact. Chatbot interface, resource recommendation engine, student risk tagging dashboard, admin demo view, and mood tracking visualization. I left the commit structure flattened. I removed private notes. I removed my personal API keys. I left the watermark. Then I placed the folder in a shared drive called minebridge_demo_assets. When Nari arrived at the lab the next morning, I looked exhausted on purpose. It wasn't hard. Some tiredness carries over between lives. I thought about it. I said before she could speak. You're right. You need to run the demo if you're helping pitch. Her face lit up. Senna. I pushed the laptop toward her. I made a demo copy. You can use this for slides. She stared at the folder link like someone had just opened a vault. Then she reached across the table and grabbed my hand. I knew you trusted me. Her palm was warm. In my last life, that warmth confused me. Now, it only felt like weather. Temporary. Meaningless. Don't change the code, I said. Of course not. Don't upload it anywhere. I won't. Don't present it without me. She laughed. Senna, seriously? What kind of person do you think I am? I looked at her. For a moment, I almost answered. Then I smiled. My teammate. Her eyes softened. Maybe she believed herself. That was what made her dangerous. Some people lie knowing it is a lie. Others lie until the world rearranges itself around their hunger. Nari was the second kind. She truly believed that because she could present better, the project belonged more naturally in her hands. I watched her download the folder. Every file, every component, every route, every hidden signature. Then she closed her laptop and hugged me. Thank you, she whispered. I'll make sure everyone sees how amazing this is. I looked over her shoulder at the rain sliding down the lab window. I know you will. Chapter 6 3 days later, Professor Han called me into his office. Nari was already there. Of course she was. She sat with her knees together, hands folded neatly, looking anxious and brave.
Professor Han gæsteret for M2 seat.
Senna, Nari tells me there has been a change in presentation arrangement. I looked at Nari. She lowered her eyes. She said you asked her to present Mindbridge on your behalf. In my last life, this sentence hit me like a slap. I denied it immediately. Too loudly. Nari cried.
Professor Han grev uncomfortable.
This time, I tilted my head. Did she? Nari's fingers tightened.
Professor Han frågned slightly.
Nari said you were overwhelmed with a technical build and felt she could communicate the social impact better. Nari looked at me then. Her eyes pleaded. Play along. Or maybe, don't embarrass me. In my last life, I thought pleading eyes meant guilt. Now I knew they could also mean calculation. I leaned back. She is better at public speaking. Nari exhaled softly.
Professor Han nodded.
So you consent? I let the silence stretch just long enough for Nari to look scared. Then I said, she can present the demo. Nari's shoulders relaxed. Professor Han studied me. And your role? I built the system. Yes, but how should it be described for the program? Nari quickly said, co-developer. I smiled. There it was. Not assistant. Not contributor. Not she helped. Co-developer. A stolen house with one shared wall left in my name. Professor Han looked at me. Senna? In my last life, I fought for the title and lost the room. This time, I said quietly, whatever Nari thinks is accurate. Nari froze. Professor Han's eyes sharpened. He heard something. Not enough, but something. Very well, he said slowly. Please submit the final presenter declaration by Friday. As we left the office, Nari caught my sleeve. Senna. I turned. Her voice dropped. Don't say things like that. Like what? Like I'm deciding everything. Aren't you? Her face paled. Then she smiled, hurt and soft. I'm trying to help you. No, I said. You're trying to stand where I was standing. The mask slipped. Only for a second. Her eyes turned cold. Then footsteps sounded down the hallway. Immediately, her expression crumpled. Senna, why would you say that? Professor Han's office door was still slightly open. Good. Let him hear the tremor. Let him wonder. I smiled gently. I must be stressed. Then I walked away. Chapter 7 Nari submitted the presenter declaration under her name. She uploaded the copied project to her own showcase repository. She edited the README. Not much. Enough. Mindbridge is my response to the loneliness I witnessed among students navigating digital learning environments. My response. My architecture diagram became hers. My commit timeline disappeared. My demo screenshots were cropped to remove the original file path. My name appeared once in tiny font under Additional Testing Support, Lee Senna. Testing Support. I stared at the page for a long time. In my last life, this was where rage destroyed me. I posted screenshots in the group chat. I accused her publicly. I wrote paragraphs no one read kindly. By the time the truth mattered, my anger had become the bigger story. This time, I downloaded the page as a PDF. Then I saved her repository archive. Then I emailed Professor Han. Professor, confirming I will attend demo day as technical support if needed. I am attaching my original project timeline and private repository export for documentation purposes, since the final presentation will be delivered by Nari.
No accusation.
No drama. Just records. He replied an hour later. Received. Thank you, Senna. Only 4 words. But they mattered. Because this time, someone had the truth before the explosion. Demo week arrived like a storm. Nari became radiant. She posted rehearsal clips. She practiced emotional pauses. She told everyone, I just hope I do justice to the work.
The work.
Not my work, just the work. People congratulated her in advance. One girl said, You're definitely winning. Nari lowered her eyes. I don't care about winning. I care about impact. I nearly choked on my drink. Minjun, sitting beside me, muttered, That sentence sounds expensive. I looked at him. He shrugged.
What?
I'm just saying. For the first time in days, I laughed. It felt strange.
Light.
Almost dangerous. Minjun leaned closer. You're letting her do this. I looked at the stage rehearsal across the room. Yes. Why? I closed my laptop. Because she wants it more than she understands it. He stared at me for a long moment. Then his gaze dropped to my USB drive. Senna. What? Did you do something to the code? I met his eyes.
No.
The code works perfectly. That was the truth. And the best traps are not lies. They are doors people choose to open. Chapter 8 Demo Day arrived bright and cruelly beautiful. The kind of day that made betrayal look cinematic. The Innovation Hall was filled with faculty, students, alumni mentors, local startup founders, and 3 judges from the National Digital Health Accelerator. Nari wore cream. Of course. Her favorite color for looking innocent. I wore black. Not for mourning. For clarity. Before the session, Nari found me near the registration table. Senna, she said softly. I turned. She held out a small silver pin shaped like a bridge. I got matching ones for us. In my last life, I wore it. After everything, I found it in my drawer and threw up because I couldn't understand how something so small could feel so cruel. This time, I took it from her hand, then pinned it onto her blazer. You should wear it. You're presenting. Her smile faltered. You're really not mad? I looked at her. Would it matter? Her fingers brushed the pin. For a second, she looked almost sad. Almost. Then someone called her name and her expression brightened. There she was again. The girl under lights. The girl everyone wanted to believe. She walked onto the stage, and the applause began. I sat in the front row. My hands were steady. Nari started with the story she had stolen from my project notes. In my second year, I noticed students around me saying they were fine while quietly falling apart. My sentence. My observation. My winter. She continued. Mindbridge is not designed to replace therapy. It is a bridge between silence and support. My tagline. My bridge. My silence. The judges nodded. The demo opened smoothly. She clicked through the dashboard, showed the mood tracker, generated a support plan, explained the escalation pathway. Every feature worked. Every transition was clean. Because I had built it well. The audience leaned in. I heard whispers. This is impressive. She built this as an undergrad? Could be grant-worthy. Nari smiled like she was trying not to cry. Then came Professor Han's voice from the judging panel. Excellent presentation, Mississippi Park. Before we continue, I'd like you to run one validation prompt from the technical rubric. Nari blinked. Of course. He handed her the sheet. She looked down. Her face did not change at first. Then her thumb rubbed against the edge of the paper. Nervous. She typed, I need a bridge before the night gets too heavy. The loading icon pulsed. The hall waited. Then the response appeared. At first normal. Gentle tone. Crisis-safe language. Recommendation to contact trusted support. Then, support plan ID. L. Senna, 0427, original, billed for 1 second. Nobody understood. Then Minjun made a sound beside me. Not quite a laugh. Not quite a gasp.
Professor Han inforvad.
Mississippi Park, he said slowly. Could you explain why the system generated a support plan ID containing Miss Lee Senna's name? Nari stared at the screen. The microphone caught her breathing. The hall went silent enough to hear the projector fan. Professor Han looked at me, then back at Nari. You stated in your presenter declaration that you were the lead developer. Nari's lips parted. No sound came out. The head judge from the accelerator adjusted her glasses. Is this a test account? A legacy label? Nari seized on the words. Yes, she said quickly.
Exactly.
Senna helped with an early test build, and some labels must have remained. A reasonable lie. A small one. The kind that could still survive. Professor Han clicked open the technical documentation folder on his tablet. I see. Then can you show us the commit where you integrated Miss Lee's early test build into your main branch? Nari froze. There it was. The second lock. Because stealing code was easy. Understanding its history was harder. Chapter 9. Nari tried to recover. I almost admired how fast she moved. She smiled weakly at the judges.
I'm sorry.
I'm a little flustered. The project had many iterations.
Professor Han nodded.
Of course. Please open your repository history. Her face went pale. The Wi-Fi may be unstable. The IT assistant at the side immediately said, We have wired access. The hall shifted. A few students whispered. Nari's fingers trembled on the trackpad. She opened her showcase repository. 3 commits. All made within the last week. Initial upload. README update. Final demo cleanup. Professor Han's face hardened. For a project of this complexity, that is unusual. Nari swallowed. I worked locally before uploading. The accelerator judge turned to me. Miss Lee, were you involved in the original development? I stood slowly. Every eye moved to me. In my last life, this attention crushed me. This time, it held me upright. Yes, I said. My voice was calm. I developed the original system architecture, backend, interface logic, and demo flow. Nari looked at me. Her eyes were wide.
Pleading.
Terrified. Furious. All at once. Professor Han asked, Do you have documentation?
Yes.
I walked to the front and plugged in my USB. Not shaking. Not crying. Not shouting.
The screen changed.
My private repository export appeared.
Commit history.
For months of work. Design notes. Architecture diagrams. Model testing logs. Screen recordings. The original Mindbridge title file. And the Watermark documentation, dated 2 weeks before Nari's repository upload. I open the file. Watermark validation. L. Senna. 0427. Original. Build triggers on rubric phrase to verify original local build lineage. The hall erupted. Not loudly. Academics do not riot. They whisper like knives. Nari gripped the podium. Senna, she whispered. The microphone caught it. Her voice sounded small. For the first time, everyone heard her say my name not as a contributor, not as support, not as someone behind her, as the person she needed. Professor Han closed his eyes briefly. Then he turned to the judges. We will pause evaluation of this project pending authorship review. Nari's face crumpled. But Professor, he did not look at her. Step down, Mississippi Park. The words were quiet. That made them worse. Nari stepped away from the podium like the stage had become water beneath her feet. I unplugged my USB. As I returned to my seat, Minjun whispered, "That was terrifying." I sat down. My hands finally began to shake. "Good," I whispered back. Chapter 10. The review began that afternoon. Not next week. Not after rumors had time to grow teeth. That day, Professor Han had my documentation. Nari had her 3-commit repository and a story full of holes. Still, she tried. At first, she said we had worked equally. Then she said I had gifted her the code because I didn't want to present. Then she said I had become resentful and planted the watermark to humiliate her. That last one was closest to the truth. Not the planting, the humiliation. But the important question was simple. Did the watermark prove authorship?
No.
Not alone. Did the full timeline, private repo, screen recordings, file metadata, and her sudden repository upload prove she had copied my work?
Yes.
By evening, the Innovation Committee suspended her from prize consideration. By night, the group chats exploded. Some people defended her. She probably misunderstood. Senna did let her present though. Why hide a watermark unless you want a drama? That one made me pause. Because maybe they were right. Maybe a kinder version of me would have stopped Nari before the stage. Maybe a healthier version of me would have reported quietly. Maybe a less broken version of me would not have needed the public moment. But I had already lived the private version. Private truth had not saved me. Private pain had buried me. So I let the stage become what it always should have been. A place where the work spoke. Nari came to find me after sunset. I was in the empty coding lab, packing my laptop. The room looked exactly like the night I woke up. Monitors dark. Rain at the windows. A hoodie over the same chair. For a second, time folded strangely. Then the door opened. Senna. I did not turn. What? Her voice shook. You planned this? Yes. Honesty landed harder than denial. She stepped inside. You admit it? I documented my work and let you present what you chose to copy. You let me humiliate myself. I zipped my laptop bag. You let yourself call my work yours. She laughed once. Broken.
Ugly.
Nothing like her stage voice. I trusted you. I turned then. The sentence was so absurd that for a moment I couldn't speak. You trusted me? Her eyes filled with tears. You gave me the files. I gave you demo assets for slides. You knew I would use them. Yes. She stared at me. Then you're just as bad as me. In my last life, that would have pierced me. This time, it only made me tired.
No, Nari.
You keep confusing access with ownership. Her face twisted. Do you know what it's like standing next to you? I said nothing. You code like breathing. Professors say your name like you're inevitable. Even when you don't speak, people assume you're thinking something important. Her voice cracked. I had to fight to be seen. So you stole from me? I gave it a voice. Her shout echoed through the lab. Then silence. There it was. The truth. Not accidental. Not misunderstanding. Not teamwork. She believed my work became more valuable when she wore it. I looked at her carefully. Nari, my project already had a voice. She wiped her tears angrily. No one would have listened. They listened today. She flinched. Chapter 11 Nari's downfall was not instant. Real consequences rarely fall like lightning. They arrive as emails, meetings, removed names, withdrawn recommendations, awkward silences when someone enters a room. The innovation grant went unawarded pending review. Professor Han submitted a formal academic integrity concern. Nari's internship mentor requested clarification. Her friends split into two camps, the ones who said she made a mistake, and the ones who suddenly remembered they had always found her a little fake. That second group disgusted me more. At least loyalty had a spine. 1 week after demo day, Professor Han called me into his office. I expected another question, another form, another exhausting demand for proof. Instead, he placed a revised certificate on the desk. Mindbridge, original developer, Lee Senna. My name. Alone. For a moment, I couldn't touch it. Professor Han's voice softened. The committee cannot award the grant until the review closes, but your authorship is recognized. My throat tightened. Thank you.
He sighed.
I should have verified roles earlier. Yes, I thought. You should have. But I only said, the records were there. He nodded. So were you. That sentence nearly broke me, because in my last life, I had been there too, shouting, crying, telling the truth badly. And nobody saw me. I took the certificate. My hands were steady until I left the office. Then they shook so hard I had to sit on the stairwell floor. Minjun found me there 10 minutes later. He looked at the certificate, then at my face. Is this a crying moment or a snack moment? I laughed despite myself. Both. He sat beside me and handed me a chocolate bar from his pocket. It was half melted. Emergency supply. This is disgusting. You're welcome. I broke off a piece anyway. For a few minutes, we sat on the stairs eating bad chocolate while students passed below, unaware that my whole life had tilted back into place by a few degrees. Not fixed. Not healed. But no longer stolen. Chapter 12 Nari came to see me one last time before the semester ended. She waited outside the engineering building under a gray afternoon sky.
No cream blazer.
No perfect hair. No soft stage smile. Just a black coat, tired eyes, and hands tucked into her sleeves like she didn't know what to do with them. Senna, she said. I stopped. I considered walking past. I didn't. Maybe because the sky looked too much like the day I died. Maybe because some part of me still wanted to hear what excuse she would choose when no audience was left. What do you want? She looked down. I'm withdrawing from the startup track. I said nothing. My internship offer is probably gone too. Still nothing. She gave a faint, bitter smile. You don't have to look so neutral. I know you're happy. Was I? I thought revenge would feel hotter, brighter. I thought watching her lose what she stole would fill the hole she left in me. But the hole had not been shaped like Nari. It had been shaped like my own abandonment of myself. I'm not sad, I said. She winced. That's worse. Maybe it was. She looked toward the innovation hall. I really did think I could present it better. I know. I told myself that mattered. I know. I told myself you didn't care about attention. My mouth curved slightly. You never ask. Her eyes reddened. I was afraid you'd say you did.
There.
Such a small confession. Such a large wound. Nari wiped under her eye quickly. I was jealous of you. I waited. She laughed softly, miserably. Isn't that pathetic? Everyone thought I had everything. Friends, confidence, professors who liked me. But you had something I couldn't fake. When your code worked, it worked. When people checked it, it held up. I wanted something real attached to my name. So you attached my real thing to yours. Her lips trembled. Yes. The word did not heal me, but it gave shape to the damage. For years, I had wondered what I lacked. Why she took from me. What I should have done to make her love me enough not to steal. The answer was nothing. It had never been about my lack. It was about her emptiness. I'm sorry, she said. The words came quietly.
No microphone.
No tears timed for witnesses. Just cold air and a voice that finally sounded like hers. I looked at the girl I had once trusted. I remembered late-night debugging sessions. Her falling asleep on my couch. Her cheering when my first prototype ran. Her hand squeezing mine before presentations. Those memories were real. That was what made them cruel. "I believe you," I said. Hope flickered in her face. Then I continued. "But I don't forgive you." The hope went out. She nodded, crying silently. I understand. Maybe she did. Maybe not. It no longer mattered. I walked past her toward the lab. This time, she did not call my name again. Chapter 13. The following spring, Mindbridge won a smaller grant through the University Ethics and Technology Incubator. Not the glamorous one Nari had tried to steal. A quieter grant. Less money. More mentorship. Better supervision. I rebuilt the app from scratch. Not because the old code was bad. Because I wanted a version of my work that did not carry her fingerprints, her lies, or the memory of that stage. The new Mindbridge had clearer privacy policies, safer escalation pathways, better accessibility settings, and a transparent authorship page. My name appeared there. So did the names of everyone who actually contributed. Minjun handled usability testing. A psychology student named Yejin reviewed support language. Professor Han supervised the ethics framework. No one's name was too small. No one's work was treated like decoration. On launch day, the room was modest. No giant hall. No dramatic blue lights. Just a classroom with 30 people, a projector that flickered twice, and a table of cheap snacks. My hands shook as I connected my laptop. Minjun leaned over. "Do you need me to click?" I gave him a look. He raised both hands. Wrong crowd. I almost laughed. Then Professor Han nodded. "Whenever you're ready, Senna." I looked at the screen. My app opened.
Clean. New. Mine.
For a second, I saw the rooftop, the cold railing, the campus lights below. The old version of me who thought losing credit meant losing herself. I wanted to reach back through that darkness and hold her, to tell her, your work can be stolen, your name can be buried, people can believe the wrong person, but none of that means you disappear. You are still the first place the truth lived. I began. "My name is Lee Senna," I said. "I'm the lead developer of Mindbridge." The words were simple. No one gasped. No music swelled. But my throat tightened around them. Because this time, no one interrupted. No one corrected the slide. No one smiled under the lights wearing my future like a borrowed coat. I clicked through the demo. The loading icon pulsed like a heartbeat. A support plan generated. No hidden watermark appeared. It didn't need to. The authorship page was visible now. The records were clear. And I had finally learned that protecting my work did not make it less generous. It made generosity possible, without self-erasure. After the presentation, a first-year student approached me. She had nervous hands and a laptop covered in stickers.
"Can I ask something?" she said.
Of course. How did you know to document everything? I thought of Nari, the first life, the second, the stage, the watermark, the silence before the hall understood. Then I smiled faintly. I learned that if you build something important, you should leave proof that it was loved before it was taken. She nodded slowly, as if writing it down inside herself. Outside, evening settled over campus. The windows glowed gold. People gathered around the snack table. Minjun argued with Yejin about whether bad coffee counted as a human rights issue. Professor Han pretended not to eat 3 cookies. And I stood beside the projector, holding my laptop against my chest. Not as Nari's quiet coder. Not as the girl in the front row clapping while someone else stole her stage. Not as the ghost from a rooftop everyone almost forgot. I was Lee Senna, developer, founder, owner of my own name. And this time, if anyone tried to copy my future, they would find my truth written so deeply inside it that even silence could expose them.